So, The Wedding Banquet is a romantic comedy directed by Andrew Ahn, who previously did the gay film Fire Island. Fairly good romantic comedy. This film is also a remake of a film by Ang Lee, and the premise is a little bit. It feels more akin to kind of like The Birdcage or like a sitcom plot because it's all about gay characters trying to stage a phony wedding for the benefit of both of them. So you have two couples here. The first couple is Chris and Min. Chris is played by Bowen Yang, who's a very eccentric type of gay guy. You know, the typical type of characters that Yang usually plays. And his boyfriend is Min, played by Han Gi-chun, is an immigrant who basically wants to stay in the country, and the only way that he can do that is if he marries somebody. And he figures, okay, I'm going to marry a woman so that, you know, my scrutinizing conservative family won't make a big deal out of it. Now, in order to make that wedding work, they tap their friends of Lee, played by Lily Gladstone, and Angela, played by Kelly Marie Tran. Both of them are trying to get pregnant. They're trying to take the relationship to that next step. But the only way they think that they can, you know, afford the means of trying to like get their child because they want like Lee to have the baby. So, you know, Lily Gladstone's character tries different methods, but none of them are working. And they realize, okay, you know, we'll help out, you know, Chris and Min for like the benefit of our own. So Angela decides to put on, you know, the act of marrying Min, and just, you know, they get this scheme going. But the film becomes a little bit complicated, but also a little bit more honest as it goes along with this plot, because at one point there is a pregnancy that kind of throws things a little bit off balance. But then also Min's grandmother of Jia Young, played by Yoon Yeon Jung, comes to visit and quickly realizes, okay, I see what's going on here. You're staging a phony wedding. You're really in love with this guy, but you know what? You're doing it to impress the family. You're doing it to stay in the country. So you know what? I'll go along with you. I'll help you out with this ruse. And I thought, okay, you know what? That's actually a fascinating angle. I'm curious to see where this goes. And it actually goes into some very interesting places, because like there's a lot of conversations between Min and Jia Young where they actually discuss like this generational progression of marriage and how there's still like a struggle present. The way that like kind of like Jia Young admits like, oh, I wasn't really in love, but you know, marriage was just the thing you did, and it's just what you had to go through. So there's this recognition of tradition, but also a great scrutiny of it, especially when they get to like the Korean kind of wedding ceremony. One of my favorite moments of this film is when they go through like this tradition where they have to like hold up these I think it's like nuts or something like that are like labeled differently, and they're saying like, what? And Kelly Marie Tran's character is like, what is this part of the tradition? It means like, oh, that like what we're holding here is meant to represent the different people within our family, the different generations. They're like, oh, okay, well, I noticed there are different colors. Which colors are women and which color are men? And like Min doesn't know, so he asks like Jia Young, and she doesn't know, and everyone's asking around like nobody knows even the people putting on this ceremony is like, I don't know. This is just a thing we do. I don't know why we're doing it. And there's a great punchline in there too about them saying, oh, well, maybe they're all non-binary. And it's like, that is such a great punchline. And there are a lot of other cute moments like that in this film where it does make it more endearing for like the romance and the comedy, where it doesn't just kind of, you know, become like a simplistic version of like The Birdcage built for a sitcom, or just like, oh, here's the antics where we have to like cover up our gayness and, you know, pretend that we're straight and have these awkward conversations. It never gets that it never quite gets that like that cringy, but it does like, I think, explore like some interesting angles while still finding just the right jokes along the way. Like, I especially love the way that Kelly Marie Tran and Bowen Yang kind of connect with each other and have like a genuine love for each other that they start questioning at several points. I also loved a lot of like Yang's one-liners. Like, he usually does pretty well with them, but he's given some really good ones here. Especially the scene where where he realizes that Jia Young is going to be arriving soon to like look over their household. And it's like, we got to stage it so like they don't think gay people live here. So they start, pulling stuff off the shelf and debating their artwork and their music and their books, and just, it's a fairly easy scene for comedy, but they progress pretty well through it. Especially with like Bowen Yang's perfect punchlines, which is like, God, why is so much of this stuff so gay? And yeah, it never feels like it's like playing it up for just simplistic punchlines. And by the time you do get to the end, of course, there is like an earnest and sweet kind of revelation where, people, come clean about, who they are and who they really want to marry. And there's some great punchlines along the way, especially when they have that classic moment where they interrupt the marriage and they think, okay, well, we'll get married and we'll do it right now. It's like, no, that's not quite how it works. Like, if you want to do that, you gotta go through these types of hoops, and just like the recognition of just like the absurdity of this scenario is what works best for this type of film. It's the type of film that wants to have fun with the scenario, but also wants to ground it enough so that it's believable enough that you'll care about these characters, and that, you want to see what happens when, Lee and Angela end up having a baby, and when Yang and Jihan can tie the knot. You want to see these characters end up together. You want them to fall in love, and it works, surprisingly well, especially for being like a remake of a Chinese film made by Ang Lee. It holds up pretty well, especially for shifting into like an Asian American aspect. It doesn't feel like it's just replicating the same type of story. It feels like it's actually updating it and making that kind of scenario its own, with kind of like a little bit more of its own original narrative, where you're not constantly thinking about the different types of beats that it's trying to hit with like the original film. So the Wedding Banquet ends up being a pretty fun and cute little romantic comedy with a fantastic amount of Asian leads here.